Welcome back. This is the Scaling Secrets podcast, and Jesse Ringer is here from methodandmetric.com. Method and Metric launched in 2017, and for over 10 years, they have helped business owners, entrepreneurs, and marketing teams build winning SEO strategies for their organizations, all through these tools like creativity backed by data, high performing teams, and delivering results. So, Jesse, glad to be speaking with you.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
And I'm excited to have you here. And, a common recurring theme with building a business and all these sort of entrepreneurial podcasts seems to be like going back to the basics, right? How they say coaching a winning basketball team at the start of the season says, hey, here's a basketball and here's the rules of basketball. So with that in mind, can you tell us like the bare basics, the bare essence? What do you do? What is SEO and what should we know?
So SEO is the practice of ranking higher in the Google and other search results. So at its core, it's about creating content that resonates with your audience and hopefully will bring in more traffic and ultimately contribute to more revenue.
Wonderful. So putting out the content and being a thought leader, and that's exactly what you and I are doing right here, right? We're making a video we use as audio. We'll rank for all these search terms and create all these paths back to you and your agency. And so, is this what you do for other businesses? You like kind of build out and refine the SEO that they have, and plus the addition they need.
Simply, yeah. But what we also do is we look at the types of keywords that they should be ranking for and the types of keywords that their ideal customers are searching with, and making sure that we're aligning those search terms with the intended expectation that consumers and clients are expecting when they search with that phrase and arrive on a piece of content. So if you have a blog post about how to make great coffee, but then at the end of the post you're selling blenders, there's going to be a bit of a disconnect. And so we want to make sure that when we are creating content, whether it is product pages, service pages, or blog content, that it matches the expectation that the reader is expecting.
And that's interesting to think about. Like it's not just about the rankings or the quantity, but it's about the expectations. And we've all been there, right? We're searching for that recipe, or we're searching for new, interesting ways to make coffee, and we almost expect the structured data to be right there in the search result. Or if there's a video, we expect it to say, hey, here's this YouTube, but it's the good stuff starts at 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And even if we click over to a web page, we expect it to load fast. We expect to get our answer. And then as we continue scrolling, we expect to see some kind of a redirect or some kind of like a call to action to take us to whatever that next level is. And so this is really fun to think about and geek out about, right? Because you think about all these people who have these problems and they're searching, and maybe they're going and they're not getting the answer they want, or they're going to some sort of a competitor. And it's always fun to think about like going back and updating the old pages, or to like see what ranks or see where those bottlenecks are that you mentioned. And so with all these ideas swirling around in our heads, what is the kind of part about SEO that needs the most help? Are people stuck about the overall strategy, or are they creating content, or the technical part? Where are people stuck these days with SEO?
I think one area that most people get stuck is looking at the keyword rankings as, their North Star, right? Rankings are often the easiest thing for us to identify. Are we ranking on the first page? Do we rank number one? But there's so much that goes into that ranking and that position that a lot of people don't see the forest from the trees. And so that would be the first thing, in understanding that we're not looking at specific keywords anymore. Google has a much better understanding of what a page is about, and we don't need to just focus on a single key phrase, but rather we're looking at a topic and matching that topic information with what people are expecting to find is something that a lot of business owners and a lot of marketers in general kind of struggle with, is making sure that we're looking at the whole picture and the whole idea of that topic rather than just trying to rank for a single phrase. We want to rank for a bunch of them.
And do you have a fun story to help us really drive this point home? Because you can think about all these examples, right? Say there's like you're like, well, if I'm like an accident attorney and I want to rank for like this exact phrase, and there's that problem of like separating the forest from the trees. And so, with all your kind of challenges and trials and clients you've dealt with, how about a story to help us kind of get this concept?
Yeah. So we have one client in particular. They do reclaimed oak beams. So they sell oak beams that they found, fixed up, and they will go into a variety of projects like fireplace mantles, tables, flooring, even structural beams. And so their specialty is finding these old, carved out pieces of wood and touching them up and making them look like new. But they get really hung up on the term for ranking for oak beams, just that phrase. But really, when you do a search for that phrase, you get Wikipedia, you get eBay, you get a lot of different types of search results. So like, what are oak beams? Or do you want to buy them? Or what can you use oak beams for? And so with a phrase like that, the search intent isn't explicitly clear. And so what we do is like make sure that we're getting terms that actually drive revenue and drive leads through their business. So focusing on longer tail terms like reclaimed oak beams or structural oak beams, and having just that one kind of marker that changes the context of the search term has allowed us to, one, increase their leads quite substantially over the last several months, but also like get to the core of what people need when they're doing a search. Whereas every time we meet with them, they'll bring up like, oh, hey, notice that we're not on page one for oak beams, or we are on page one for oak beams. And this term fluctuates 3 or 4 times a week. So sometimes they're in the top 10, sometimes they're on page 3, sometimes they don't rank for it at all. And it just switches almost daily because the search intent is such a mixed bag that it's really hard for them to kind of let go of it, because on one hand, that's what they offer, oak beams. But on the other hand, it doesn't actually drive any revenue or drive any leads to their business.
That is interesting to think about, because like a lot of people talk about this idea of the long tail, but you're saying that there's also this idea of search intent. And you can say, well, I really want to have this short keyword. I want to be on page one, but will that even equal to more leads and money for you? Because that sort of more short or like untargeted key phrase is not a serious buyer. They're just doing research. They might want to find the Wikipedia entry, and if anything, they're annoyed that they find this page about your company and your oak beam. So that's very interesting to think about, that it's kind of like all these factors combined, right? It's not just like, do I have it or do I don't have it? It's just kind of like what you built around. And then this idea you're saying of different levels of awareness, or like they're at a different phase of the buying process, right? They might be curious, or they might be asking pricing or buying questions. And like sometimes I'll be doing a search, and I'll end up on some website or some blog, and I'm just like thinking like, why are they even ranking for this? Like the other day I was searching about like some like AI tool or feature, and I ended up on Namecheap, like the domain registration site, and I'm like, why is their blogging so far out in scope? And so asking you as an SEO person, like, why do some of these websites like have so much like of an area built out like that?
Yeah, that's a great example of like a bit of the disconnect that is starting to really show up within the search results. Like we know, marketers, business owners, we're told SEO is essential for your business, and you need to have content and you need to rank for all these keywords, otherwise you're missing the boat. But you fall into these categories where the topic that you're searching for doesn't align with your view of the brand that you've landed on, the domain. And so it creates this weird feeling of like, well, what are they doing here? Like, are these people actually experts in deciding whether or not AI tools are good or not, and which ones you should use? And so there is this kind of thinking around what the brand implications are. Great, you rank for this keyword, but does it build any trust with your target audience? Does it create a compelling use case for someone to want to do business with you down the road? Does it align with your values as a business, values as a person, and like, does it actually help this audience? If you're not an expert in this space, no one's going to come to me for medical advice, right? No one's going to come to me about what car to choose or, what books to read, because like that's going to be really personal. And if they came to Method and Metric and were like, what are the best nonfiction books out there right now? Like, you wouldn't read my blog posts. That wouldn't make any sense. It's not about necessarily either staying in your lane, but having the right tangential expertise that resonates with what you offer. And so all of that is to say, we do need to, most SEOs are going to tell you you need to rank for a lot of different search terms. You should have a really deep, rich blog experience. But at the end of the day, you need to answer the questions that are fundamental to your business and what it is that you do, because otherwise you're not going to earn their trust. You're going to rank for some keywords. Great. That's cool. And then what? Like, they help build your brand? Do they help build your client base? Do they help feed your newsletter? And if they don't do that, then at the end of the day, there's no point. There's no point in writing that content because it doesn't actually contribute to your business goals.
So what I'm getting from you is you're saying to answer these fundamental questions. I love that you said that. And then also that the content that you create and what you rank for, it needs to lead somewhere. It needs to mean something. It needs to kind of connect those visitors from whatever brought them to your site to then buying from you or joining your list, or just it needs to convert into something. And so with all of these things that need to be done, right, with SEO, there's like hundreds of little recurring tasks. Is there sort of a general plan when someone comes to Method and Metric and you say, like, I've looked at what you've done and here's what we can do? Is it a case by case basis, or do you usually say, like, devote like this amount of time per week on your blogging or your videos, or like what's sort of the action plan in order to get some of this work done?
Yeah. Nobody goes out looking for an SEO or any like professional if everything is going well. So more often than not, someone's come to us because their SEO is not working, their website is not generating business for them, and there's an actual problem. So we will always start with an audit to assess what is actually going on. Is what they see as, not enough leads, not enough business, actually like an SEO problem. And we'll look at technical components like, can Google crawl that information? Can Google see what your content is about? Do you have content? Is it relevant to your audience? Is it relevant to what you do and you offer? And then from there, based on our findings, we'll build out a keyword strategy and a technical SEO strategy in ways to ultimately prove how your website communicates with Google and how your website communicates with your audience. And then from there, traffic is all well and good, ranking is great, but if nobody is taking action on your website, that still doesn't serve you. And so we'll do a conversion rate optimization audit as well, where we'll go through the website, figure out where the bottlenecks are, where people are getting stuck. Are we our offer and our services effectively, as well as making sure that, the forms work, the checkout process is smooth, and making sure that there's the right amount of friction for your customers and clients to take action.
And you make this easy enough to tackle the problem, right? Instead of you here saying, well, there's a big to-do list of things to do, you're saying, let's just do the audit. Let's just like see where the hurt is as far as the SEO, and then audit the conversion rate. So at least that way we can just see what's the low-hanging fruit, where is it broken, what can be done.
Yeah, like we've come into websites where for whatever reason their developer forgot to tick off the box of saying allow this website to be in the search results. And, we start with that sometimes. Other times it's just like expanding their content offering and figuring out what keywords their audience is actually searching for. But sometimes it's like quite deep technical issues that take a long time to unravel. But we can't really know that until we've taken a dive into the website and assessed what's going on.
And so you've seen so many things where it just might be something as simple as that the box was checked on and the site settings, and then the meta tag appeared so that way it said, hey, search engines don't even index this, or maybe like some broken JavaScript that appeared on every page. And so just one little thing at a place that maybe that the company doesn't even know it's there, or maybe they know there's a problem, but they haven't been able to narrow it down to just that right checkbox that's down there. And so some simple things, or maybe like a simple fix once you find the problem, can kind of open up all these extra opportunities. And so as far as like the change that you've made, as far as some of these companies' SEO, is there anything that you find like really interesting, or anything like you're really proud of as far as the before and after that you've accomplished?
Yeah. Two, those are kind of two different questions. But the first one, interesting things, that it's never the same thing for every website. We think it is, and like we cover the same process throughout, but the thing that works for a therapist website is not going to work the same for a law firm. And something that works really well in e-commerce might not translate to SaaS products. And so that's something over time where it's like, what do you mean the strategy didn't work? And we've had to kind of like edit and adapt, because it's not a one size fits all solution. But one client that we've had like a ton of success with, and it never really seemed like it would take place, was that we work with a therapist, and her goal was to surpass the biggest, mental health office here in Vancouver. And we're like, okay, we'll try our best. And our strategy for that was to really dive into her specialties within the therapies and practices. So looking at epilepsy, women's health, and trauma, and really getting into some very intimate topics with regards to her blog, and going into all of these things. And it took her traffic from 30 to 50 monthly visitors from Google to 3,500 monthly visits. And it went from, her team expanded from just her to having 5 other associates. And so all that took place in about 18 months. And so that's one that definitely an outlier in terms of the speed in which it grew. And we've tried to replicate this across a variety of other websites, and we've seen success, but it has not been as quick, or like with such a steep incline. And so that's one that always kind of stands out, of like our North Star of like, how do we replicate this? How do we make this really work across other websites? Because that one was just such a phenomenal result. And we certainly surpassed her goals and expectations for it.
Well, wonderful, and it's great to have those big hairy goals, right? To say, well, I want to outrank these big therapy firms in Vancouver, and then for you to go in and at first have maybe the panic and be like, how the heck do we do this? But then figure out, okay, well, if we get narrow and we kind of cover this other territory that they have not covered, it's a lot of fun to think about. And for some reason, as far as like some of these technical SEO sort of strategies and stories, it feels like that whole idea of like, if your own house or your own room is messy, you don't feel like cleaning it. But if you go over to someone else's house and it's a real mess, then it's like fun cleaning it up, and it's fun rearranging things. And it just feels that same way with me as far as SEO, where like when I think about my own business or my own keywords, I'm like, oh, I have to think about this. But you think about some of these adventures that, such as what you were just saying, it's just a lot kind of, it's a fun mental exercise. And then when you see what's possible, what can be accomplished, and you think, okay, well, maybe I can like apply that, back to my industry. And then it's also kind of cool probably for you and your team to kind of have that 4-minute mile, so to speak, right? Like you said, well, we were able to accomplish this with the therapist. So like, what can't we do? Or those other times when you doubt yourself, you think, we've done it before, let's do it again. And so this is the Scaling Secrets podcast. And so I want to make sure that we cover some ground as far as scaling, and I'll kind of leave it up to you. You can kind of choose your own adventure here as far as like, do you have any sort of scaling advice to share, either about the work you do and like the SEO and the output, or as far as internally in your own business and what you've done to like grow your team, what do you feel like sharing with us as far as some scaling tips and advice?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think it's easier to speak about other people's work than it is to be like, oh yeah, this is how we do it. Because it doesn't always feel like we're scaling. But we have definitely grown. We doubled our workforce this year and intend to do pretty close to the same in the next 2 years as well. And so, but from an SEO perspective, from a digital marketing perspective, I think that SEO still drives a ton of value for businesses, and it's Google is still the biggest traffic driver on the web per channel and all that kind of stuff. So one thing for scaling, content is key and consistency is the other part of it. You need to have the right strategy, but also being very adaptable to it, because what gets you through those first incremental stages likely won't get you to those other ends of it all. And so you have to be adaptable and be reticent to roll with that. The other thing with digital marketing too is that your competitors are always working hard to also do the same thing that you're doing, and Google changes their algorithm and people's habits change. And so being in tune with the world, I think, is probably the biggest asset to scaling, and being consistent. Those are two things that have served me well, but also serve our clients well, is like consistent blog writing, consistent production, and continuously trying to improve that experience. And that is like very much rooted in understanding the analytics and your audience and the world at large.
That is very interesting to think about, those two sides of the coin, consistency and adaptability. Because if you're consistent but not adaptable, you just keep on blogging like it's 2001. But then if you're too adaptable and not consistent, then you'll have kind of that entrepreneurial ADD, and you'll always be just chasing the trends and not really sticking to the videos or the podcasting or the blogging enough. So that's very interesting to think about, as far as having both of those factors, and having enough of each one. That way, if something works, you keep on doing it, but then you also stay up to date on those kind of new trends. And as you know, I'm sure better than most, SEO changes sometimes every day, every week, right? There's always new sorts
Every
of
day.
things to talk about. And if we were to dive deep on some of the specific details, and as soon as you say the words, then they'd already be out of date. But just as far as, even with saying a little bit of that, as far as the kind of new and exciting things, right? There's so much to think about as far as like AI and voice search and accessibility. Is there anything that you think we need to be paying attention as far as maybe the cutting edge of SEO?
Yeah. I mean, so much of SEO culture and business is rooted in what Google does. And that probably isn't going to change anytime soon. But seeing as how Bing has integrated ChatGPT into their search algorithm, and how you can actually interact with a search result, that's going to change a huge amount of how we do business and how we as SEOs like rank and consider content. I don't think that AI is going to take over everything, because there's still too much that it can't know or understand. But I think that you need to be aware of it and have an honest conversation of how it will impact your own business. AI has the potential to do a lot of great stuff for us. But is it going to be a silver bullet? I don't think so. And I do see that like Google is not catching up to ChatGPT the way they want to. And I think that it does open the door for a platform like Bing to get some market share, especially in North America, where Google has like 95% of that. And I think that, yeah, taking a look at what Bing could do and what other search engines can do, and diversify that thinking, because I don't know if Google is going to be able to catch up once ChatGPT and Bing really get going.
And so, speaking with you about this and some of the other kind of ideas that you shared, what comes to mind for me is that there are just multiple tools in the toolbox, right? Like it used to be many years ago, if I was really stuck on a problem, I'd go to some message board and I'd make a post and I'd sit and wait for maybe days on end for all these differing opinions to come through. And then sometimes I do a Google search, or sometimes I search on my phone or do a voice search, or sometimes I do ask AI even just to like phrase the right question or to get a first stab at it. And so that's interesting to think about, just as far as kind of similarly you were saying, when you fix up a company's, a website's SEO, you say, well, sometimes we'll just apply the tools to it. So when people are searching, they're applying their own different tools in the toolbox, and we just need to be aware of what they're using in order to get in front of that, the traffic and the ranking and the conversion and the experience and kind of all these concepts that you've been mentioning. And also importantly saying that it's not just one, like don't just chase the ranking. That's one of many factors. So
Yeah.
chase, everything that it gets you. And so as we're beginning to wind down our conversation, I want to make sure that I get from you like something about your entrepreneurial mindset, because as we all know, you can have all the right knowledge and the right tools, but unless you apply the right like mindset and have a good attitude and time management, then it's hard to make use of what's there. So as far as just your mental state and the way you manage time and everything like that, do you have a tip to share with us just as far as just making the most out of life and business?
Yeah. Time management, I think, is a huge one, and that comes into like, man, for one, my sleep is never compromised. I go to bed at the same time every night. I'm a little embarrassed about how early that is, and I get up at the same time every day. It is sacred time for me, and my mornings are no phones, and I read on my own. And so that for me has been a huge help because I can ease into my day and I can start to think critically about what is going to happen throughout the day. Um, the other side of that with time is delegate. And it's really hard as a business owner and entrepreneur to delegate because no one's ever going to do it as well as you. But you have to accept that as long as you have the same end goal in mind, it shouldn't matter how that person gets to that end goal as long as they get there. So that's part of it as well. And then, you know, ultimately it all comes down to like minimize those distractions. Like I'm still guilty of this. I get caught up like digging into something that my team asked for help with, or I will start tidying up a spreadsheet that really doesn't need me to tidy up. And those things I think definitely detract me at times, but at the same time, you know, you need to have that focus and clarity and like acknowledge when you need to either take a break or, get focused and go into that cave and get it done. But man, yeah, time is probably the biggest thing that I think about the most.
And I can tell that you have a lot of self awareness about this. So thank you for being honest and vulnerable about your weaknesses and very small mistakes that in the big picture don't really matter, right? You tidy up that spreadsheet and you say, hey, I've caught on to maybe this bad behavior that I sometimes fall into, time to focus or take that break. And so you're saying here that it's important to get adequate sleep, and it's important to delegate, even though there's a whole just area of frustration with that, as far as like they won't do it as good enough or as fast enough as you. But it's important to get over some of those things in order to scale and look at the big picture. And it doesn't always matter how it gets done or if it's sloppy or imperfect, just that it gets done and it's at a finished point eventually.
Yeah.
And so if someone here is super impressed by everything you share with us, you talked about scaling and SEO and entrepreneurialism, etc., then what's the next step here? How does someone find out about you and your SEO company? And how do they know if they're a good fit for some of these actions like the audit?
Yeah. So is where we're at. I'm also on LinkedIn, Jesse Ringer, and they think that they might be a good fit, or you just want to have a conversation about SEO. We do offer a free SEO competitor analysis service that will have a chat about where they fit into the SEO landscape and what their opportunities are for that.
Wonderful. Methodandmetric.com, and
Mm-hmm.
then Jesse Ringer on LinkedIn, Ringer. And then as we are wrapping up our conversation here, Jesse, I want to make sure that we end with a bang instead of a whimper. So you said that you're a big reader and you're introspective and you think about all these things. And is there like a quote or lesson that has really helped you or that you think can really help us today? What comes to mind to you as far as a quote or lesson?
Yeah. Lesson, I would say, man, be patient with yourself. It's really easy to get caught up in trying to be as successful as the people that have done this before and like your competitors and other, people in your space. But at the same time, you're on your own path, and the universe will help clear that path for you. And so be patient. Like, oh, it's very hard to feel like you're not moving fast enough all the time. You'll always feel like there's not enough time. And I think that patience has really helped me come to terms with like I'm in the right spot and I'm going in the right direction.
I love it. Very helpful. Be patient with yourself because it's so easy to have that internal voice and for you to be super mean and nasty to yourself and you think I would never say such things to even my worst enemy, and yet why am I letting myself both say and listen to just this head trash, this crap? So very helpful advice. Be patient with yourself on that journey to success. And if one of these things that you're frustrated about is your SEO and all these things related to your website, then reach out to Jesse and his team, methodandmetric.com. That way they can do that analysis for you. And thank you very much, Jesse, for showing up and being a blast to speak with. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. It was a great chat. Thank you.
All righty.